We have to start with that budget, $46.4 billion. It looks like there's something for almost everybody in there, including a fair amount for your pension plan. What are the highlights for you?
Yeah, David, good to be back with you. Clearly this is a budget that continues our investment in that stronger, fairer, and now more resilient New Jersey. So all-time high investments in public education, infrastructure, public health, lots of money directed at shrinking the inequities that this pandemic has laid bare. And I would say at the same time, doing it in a fiscally responsible way. When we came into office, we inherited a whole range of large, unaddressed structural deficits. We have chopped away at that in our 3.5 years in office, and this budget today is an all-time high in that respect. The first full pension payment in 25 years. Debt defeasance, debt avoidance, totaling $3.7 billion, a surplus in the budget of $2.3+ billion. Those are numbers and those are steps that New Jersey's not taken in a long, long time.
And Governor, I dare say that a year ago, 18 months ago, we would have said this was almost impossible. We thought the pandemic was really going to lay low a state like New Jersey that was hit so badly by the pandemic. How did you do it? How did you manage to accomplish all that?
Well, listen, I mean, it's a reality shared by 9.3 million of us. It's no one move, David. I think, first of all, we made it clear from the get-go that public health would create economic health, and it was not the other way around. And as painful as that was, particularly last spring and into the summer, that was clearly the right order of events. And by the way, even having said that, we've lost, as you and I have discussed, we've lost over 26,000 of our fellow residents. So we paid an enormous price. But driving the pandemic, the virus toward the ground and to where we are today, I'd say is the most important element of that. And then if you look at people's activity, they may have been working from home. They may not have been going to the store, but they were still working in many cases and still consuming. Listen, again, we paid a big price there as well. A lot of people unemployed, small businesses that went under. But for the most part, we were able to muddle through. We borrowed money at the nadir, and that allowed us to keep our programs in place, keep people employed at the state level. And so it's a combination, I think, of a lot of different elements.
And I think it's important for the audience, as I understand it, this is without regard to the $6.25 billion that you're getting in federal pandemic relief. That's put to the side, yet to be spent. So in retrospect, do you think you needed that money?
I do, David, because we have some long-term investments that are going to be required here without question. Everything from learning loss to mental health programs to bolstering our small business community, particularly restaurants and bars and other small businesses that have been crushed. Investing in our school buildings, particularly in older ones, and we got a lot of them with their HVAC systems. Investments in public health. We've paid a huge price as a nation, and New Jersey's no exception, for underinvesting in public health for too long. So there's going to be a lot of monies toward bolstering that public health, bolstering our transit and infrastructure realities that have been clobbered by this pandemic, et cetera. So the answer is yes, we will put it to good use. It'll be spent as is required over a 3-year period, the American Rescue Plan money, and we'll do it responsibly. And that's an important driving element of everything we do here.
Governor, at least in your mind, do you have some money set aside for that Hudson Tunnel? Because we've heard from Senator Schumer that he might like to move that up to 2022. Are you prepared to pony up what New Jersey has to get that done?
We sure are, David. I mean, this is a big deal. The 2 rail tunnels under the Hudson River were built in 1910. In fact, finished in 1910. So this program, and I was with Pete Buttigieg over the weekend talking to him about this. He was in looking at the tunnels himself yesterday. This is to build 2 new tunnels and then to rehab the old 2. This is the Northeast Corridor lifeblood. New Jersey is ready to go. We're already working on one project on our side of the river. And we want to get things going. Senator Schumer and I were back and forth over the weekend as well. This is a game changer. It's way overdue, and it'll have huge implications positively for New Jersey, but as I mentioned, the entire Northeast Corridor.
Governor, you mentioned the 26,000 people you lost in New Jersey because of this pandemic. Let's go back to that battle that you've been fighting for some time against the pandemic. Looks like you're doing pretty well in New Jersey. At the same time, we now have a Delta variant that's coming out that's got a lot of people concerned. How concerned are you? And more specifically, I saw that Hong Kong shut down their airport to people coming in from the United Kingdom. You've spent time over there in Asia. Do you think that makes sense, for example, for Newark?
Yeah, it does not at the moment, but it certainly did. And we worked with the federal government, in that case, the Trump administration, to restrict in and out. And now the Biden administration, as you know, as it relates to travel to India, which was really painful for New Jersey because we've got one of the largest South Asian populations of any American state. Listen, the variants are in our state. We're the densest state in America. That's part of the reason why we got clobbered last year and why the variants are all over the state this year. But, and this is an important and positive but, the vaccines work. They clearly work, particularly both, if it's a two-shot vaccine, you got to get them both, folks, but they work against, including these variants, including the Delta variant. That doesn't mean you can't necessarily get COVID, but it does mean you'll stay out of the hospital and thank God you won't die. And so this is increasingly, David, in our state, a pandemic among the unvaccinated. Right. And I would just plead with anybody watching, whether you're in Jersey or not, right, the personal health risk to you by not getting vaccinated far outweighs any risk associated with getting vaccinated. And that's the best thing we can do, period, but also against these variants.
And finally, Governor, to pick up on that, the vaccines work if you get vaccinated. Last time we spoke, there is some differentiation within New Jersey about which communities do get vaccinated, which don't. Unfortunately, it tends, not 100%, but tends to correlate with people of color. Is that still the case in New Jersey, and what are you doing to overcome that?
Yeah, David, we've made a lot of progress, but we're still at it. You know, we had set an objective of 70% of our adults to be vaccinated by the end of June. We did it. We've exceeded that. I'm incredibly proud of our vaccination program. I think it's one of the strongest in America, and it's due to a lot of different folks doing a great job. But, and this is the big but, the equity piece is not yet where it needs to be, particularly, as you rightfully point out, in Black and brown communities. It's why, as we speak, we have a community corps literally going door to door, knocking on doors in 22 communities up and down the state. And those communities are overwhelmingly communities of color, and we'll stay at it until we get the equity issues fully addressed.
President Biden said July 4 is the day we all get to come back out again. What's it going to look like in New Jersey? What kind of restrictions are there going to be on those fireworks, for example, over the beach?
Yeah, there won't be many restrictions left, David. I mean, we've lifted most of them as of the Friday before Memorial Day. So I'm looking forward to a great 4th of July on the shore, at our lakes, on our main streets, and a great summer. You still need to wear a mask if you're on a bus, a train, or a plane, or you're in a hospital or a long-term care setting. But beyond that, we're pretty much wide open for business. God knows we need that, and I'm looking forward to a great Jersey Shore and Jersey summer period.
Might there be a little campaigning in there for you, Governor? I think there's an election coming up in November. You have an opponent now. How do you assess that race?
Yeah, listen, there will be some campaigning for sure. Listen, we have our heads down, and we run like we have since day one. And when we ran the last time, like we're 10 points behind. And that's exactly how we'll continue to be. Focused first and foremost on governing this great state and saving as many lives, please God, as we can, getting people back to work, getting our small businesses back up on their feet. And then at the edges, we'll do some campaigning. And as I say, we're going to run like we're 10 points behind every step of the way.
It doesn't happen all the time, but there have been Republicans actually who've been governor of New Jersey. And as I recall, the last time it was because of property taxes. Do you have any vulnerability on the tax issue?
Listen, David, a Democratic governor in Jersey hasn't been reelected in 44 years.
Wow.
So for all the blueness around our state, that's a fact. Yeah, we've had 3 of the lowest property tax increases year on year of any year in our state's history. The budget I signed today has a ton directed at that. Homestead rebates, senior freeze. We're doing a lot of tax relief. Right. Folks are going to start getting in the middle class, getting checks in the mail at the end of this week. So we get a lot going at that. It's not solved yet, but we're making progress.